Good evening. Let's call this meeting of the Kalamazoo Historic Preservation Commission to order, please. Starting off with a roll call. Why is this so loud today? Kayla?
Here.
Fred?
Here.
Myself, present. We're still waiting on Lene. Hopefully she joins us. Patrick?
Here.
Ryan is no longer on the commission. Catherine?
Here.
Have we announced that we're looking for another member again?
It's a great question. I think that Neil has put one out, but I'll come to put another push. I know that we put a push out for a Historic District Commission as well.
Okay. We don't have appointment of a vice chair on this agenda like I asked.
We can certainly amend it to put it on there.
Am I allowed to do that, or does someone else have to?
Well, I would have someone else do it.
So we can make a motion on that?
Sounds like it.
I move that we place the vice chair position on the agenda.
Thank you, Fred. Are there any other modifications to the agenda before we vote to adopt?
Yes, there are. I have two things that I need to add. I will admit things got away from me because we switched the date of the meeting, so that's probably what happened with the vice chair appointment. And then Pam also sent over two reports, a grant-making report and a monthly report on the City Hall Local Historic District designation that I did not include, so we can add those underneath Section E reports, and we can do them after the listed business. So they would be 4 and 5 after the DEI subcommittee report. The amendment that you all just proposed regarding the appointment of a vice chair, I think should be couched underneath Section F, following the two pieces of business that are on the agenda so far, and they should, and put underneath then number 3 under Section F.
All right, a motion to adopt the revised agenda.
So moved.
Do we?
Second.
Yeah. Thank you. Approval of minutes. We've got, is it 2 or 3 months now?
To February and March.
Taking corrections to the minutes, or no? I just saw that a name wasn't capitalized, Catherine's last name, real minor. White, it's not capitalized, and I'm not sure where I saw it, but trying to find it.
And if you guys could just let us know what month you're looking at first, and then...
Yes, I'm looking through both of them.
Okay.
Kind of read them both at once, yes. Let me see how fast I can.
Gotcha.
Well, the March minutes still have the February header.
Okay.
There were some typos and stuff, but nothing that changes meaning. At the end of E4 in March, though, should probably say call or email to express support.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, I found Fred's
Did you?
white.
What was it in February's or March?
February E3, last sentence of the first paragraph.
Did you get that?
Yep. Last sentence, first paragraph, E3, white, not capitalized.
And then H says Hibbard need to revise roster. I don't have that ability. I'm guessing it should say on city website.
Yep. Yes. Another Neil thing.
Yep. I think that's all the markups that I need to relay. Anyone else? Very well. Motion to approve?
I'll move to approve as amended.
Both months?
Yep.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Great. We'll note and welcome Lene. Thank you for joining us. And then puts us at public comments. Do we have any submitted? Pam, you may approach. Can't. Not yet. Do I have to push this button?
Shall I just, there we go. I was, the last time I appeared before you, I talked a little bit about House Bill 5430, which is the improvement bill for the Michigan State Historic Preservation Tax Credit. It is a vast improvement over what we were given in 2020, which was a good start, but not enough. And since I was here last, MHPN, the Michigan Historic Preservation Network, has been working on self-help items for folks to use to have conversations with their legislators or communicate with their legislators about their own support for the bill and requesting that their legislator request or consider supporting the bill. And on their website now, as of last week, I think, there is a sample letter to your legislators, and it can be basically copied and pasted into a document that you could send through email or into an email. I will send you the link to this and would ask that you please look at it and please use it. It's very important to build interest, not just amongst the people who created and submitted the bill, but to the rest of the legislature, because you're all busy and they are too. And the more they hear from us, the more they're going to think about it. And in that same vein, I would like to ask one of you or two of you to consider doing some grassroots advocacy with me. As you may or may not know, I'm the former board chair of the Michigan Preservation Network, and I was at one time the committee chair for their advocacy. And so I've stayed in touch with those folks, and although I wasn't integral to putting together the new proposed legislation, I have stayed close to it, and I am preparing to make an appeal to one of our city commissioners to talk about it, to inform them of what the changes would be and what the potential impacts could be in Kalamazoo. and to ask them to take this resolution to the City Commission for approval as an act of its support. Do I have any volunteers?
What time and what days are you looking at?
I don't have any yet. I decided to ask you all first if someone was going to be available.
I've
Would you
got
be interested
time,
in
but-
trying to see if we could figure something out?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it, Fred. Has anyone had a chance to look at the fact sheet for the legislation? Do they have any questions or comments that I might be able to help answer? It's a big deal. It will make this credit usable again, and when we had our original credit between 1999 and 2011, Kalamazoo was the 4th largest user of that credit in the state of Michigan. And it'd be great to be right back there again. And Lord knows we have plenty of projects that could use the help. The fact that this credit will be stackable if it is enacted makes a really big deal as a building owner or a developer or even a homeowner in the state of Michigan these days. It is stackable, or what they call stackable, which means that the credit that a project receives in the state of Michigan is also eligible for 20% credit from the federal. It's a separate application. You still have to apply for it separately, but that means that almost a quarter of all of the qualified expenses for a project could be met. Actually, almost 50%. I misspoke. When you put those two credits together, a 25% credit along with a 50% credit for the eligible expenses, that is a big lift up for someone who's entertaining doing a project. This also expands availability to different entities for project developers. And if you look at the fact sheet, it'll all be there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pam. There were no other public comments submitted? No. Right, that brings us to the financial reports.
Alrighty. A lot of numbers this time. So this is probably what we're going to try to start making it look like all the time. I think that what we need to, using this program is not my favorite thing. Once we look at it and we look at it with the expenditures, it'll make more sense. The number that really matters the most is on the second page, total assets, $2,320 is the amount of money that we have on hand inside the city account. All the other debits and credits and beginning balance things, that's just how this one prints out. It does give you guys everything that we've done up to this point, but it's the 2320.8 is the balance. When you look at that in conjunction with the city expenditure report, it shows all the money that we've spent up to this point in a more succinct way, I think. So you can see that the Jimmy John's that we spent, the money on that item, we spent money on the historic preservation, which is the Michigan Historic Preservation Network, looking at getting us re-registered and then looking at getting everyone signed up for the conference as well, are the expenses that we've incurred. So.
Thank you for getting us this detail.
Yes.
I know this was not easy.
I know it doesn't look that pretty, but even if I put it, when I tried to put it into a spreadsheet, the cells were almost unreadable. I know that this isn't our preferred method. This is not manipulatable. I did not feel like taking the time to go through and join probably hundreds of cells back into a readable format. So we have the account numbers here. We can see what was spent. I think there's one more level of description, maybe, but I'm not sure. Or no, this is the one, the detail report. So it does say at least what we've been spending the things on. So I hope that it does help and clear things up.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Awesome. I know that it is a lot to look at. So when we come on to the O'Connor Fund budget one, it's a much simpler thing to look at because I did make this one in Excel. I think what I'm going to start to do now in the future, and sorry I didn't put a comma in the second number, I'm always going to give you guys the net assets and then the current balances. So the net assets for the one account is $67,330,000.52, but the current available balance is $14,968.25. As you can see, O'Connor 2, the net assets are $420,902.15, and the current available balance is $57,811.29. We don't have any expenditures coming out of this right now, so I'm not going to put down $0 for the expenditures. If we just don't have any, then I'm not going to list them. I will start including the gift summaries too, though, and I'll probably just do a running tab of year-to-date things so we can kind of know where we're at. There were none into O'Connor 1 at this point, but up to this point, we've had I think it was a singular donation of $300 into O'Connor 2. If you guys want me to break those out into a better running tab of the month by month, that'd probably be the most beneficial as we get to the end of the year. But hopefully this shows the direction that we're trending.
No, it's great. Thank you for including these. I think it'll be nice to see this in each agenda and be able to kind of get just a better idea. I think we'll talk more about this later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right, thank you.
Yep.
106 report looks pretty short as well.
Yep. Again, just as a reminder to everyone regarding what Section 106 is, when federal funds are being spent on projects that could affect historic properties, in essence, and they have to do with HUD funding, in essence. I review them in the city of Kalamazoo. I provide you all with quarterly reports, so this is the report for the first quarter. This is divided into two different categories: projects that are affecting either National Register listed or National Register eligible properties, and then projects that are not affecting National Register listed or National Register eligible properties. Listed or eligible properties are listed first. In this case, we only have one thus far, 462 East Stockbridge Avenue. This was just replacing a water heater and a furnace, and it did not have an adverse effect on the historic property. Just by the nature of this, we tend to see more properties that are not National Register listed or National Register eligible. So we've had 8 thus far, and that number's probably gone up since I made this. I guess, I don't know. These don't necessarily concern us because they're not National Register eligible or listed. I just put them down, I think as a way of tracking, inherited thing from Sharon to show how many reviews are being done as well. Again, just to show the volume of things that are coming in. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about this. Pretty straightforward up to this point. Awesome.
Right, moving on to our first subcommittee report. Is that the title of it? I don't know what we called them. Do I have that? Diversity, equity, inclusion, education, sustainability, and stewardship.
We can come up with a better acronym, but Brad, we can hand it over to you if you want to. I put this in there for you to provide an update, you and Lene.
Okay.
To provide an update.
Okay. Last week, we had a Zoom meeting, Kayla, Lene, and myself, and out of it, for the starters, we came up with my trying to reach out and contact the Ransom Street project folks, and I've put a couple messages into Jay with the city. Haven't heard, mentioned something a few times to you, Louise, about contacting. And I'm willing to go out and talk to the North Side, the new director of the North Side, and see if we can join a meeting or listen to how we could help go that. So that hasn't been accomplished. The other major part, what we were talking about, is Kayla was going to meet with Regina, and I don't know if you're able to pull that off, so we can hear from Kayla what she found out meeting with Regina. And there's some things I'd like to discuss with the board after you talk about your meeting.
Okay, so I had spoken to Regina and just kind of checking in on what this subcommittee has kind of done in the past too, related to reaching out to like tribal representatives, so particularly the Gun Lake tribe. So I was able to talk to someone with the tribe, and I think, we can keep talking about this within our subcommittee, and then kind of talk about it within the larger committee of just, kind of like one project in particular, just getting like the Bronson Park mound signage and kind of landscaping project moving forward. So, but other than that, I don't really have anything else to provide at this point.
Okay. The other thing, Lene brought up a very good point as I got to talking about other groups to learn about their input in the Kalamazoo area, to tell their stories. She mentioned that we need to stick to buildings. Did I understand that right? Buildings and structures, Lene? I'll let you speak to that. The point you made when I was talking about curb cuts for physically challenged individuals. And
Well, first, I think what I said was that we need to focus on, one area currently. There's a million ways we can show appreciation for things that occurred in the past. Our charter here is a historic preservation of a structure. That doesn't mean we can't in the future branch off to something else or another focus, but I just think, just my opinion, we need to focus on a structure and pick one and have a focus on what we're going to do on that one, because we've been going back and forth with this for at least 2-3 years now, and we got to come up with something that and have it completed. And so, again, there's a million of ways we can show appreciation, but I think you had mentioned a ramp or something, disabled ramp, but I don't know, in my opinion, and again, this is just me, is that historic? Is that something that that needs to be preserved?
Recognized that the city was some of the earliest at doing curb cuts. At least that's what I've heard with Sharon. I think, Catherine, you'd have mentioned it a while ago as a thing to look at for a community that's stories undertold. But I get what you're saying about structure, and we ought to walk first before we take off running on something else.
Mm-hmm. So, that was just my thought. But, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can, honor people and things like that. And I suggested that we start with one of the structures we'd been looking at, such as the ecumenical, what is it?
Ecumenical
Thank
center.
you. The senior center, we talked about the AME church we talked about, we could honor, what's his name? His last name is White. He was the first, who? Albert, oh, okay. Yeah, so, I mean, we need to start with one of those. That's just, you know, because we got to get going.
How about the Douglas Center?
Douglas Center, thank you. Sorry, excuse me. Yes.
Could I ask a question? So looking at the work plan, and I think that my understanding is that there were two items on the work plan that relate to like the DEI subcommittee. And the first one was talk about the Ransom Street project, which you mentioned, Fred, and the second one was looking at developing relationships with underrepresented community groups, and then kind of like seeing how we could add to their existing projects. I'm wondering if the projects you're talking about, you know, with these specific structures relate to that goal in the work plan, or if that's something that's new that's being thought about. I'm just wondering about like where that is situated within.
So I would think that the Ransom Street project would be considered under that category, because they're already up and going and they've already established what they're trying to do. We are just supporting that. So that's just one. You know, I mean, there's a lot of programs we can support, but I just think we need to go slow right now. We're just getting started. Pick one. So under that category, I would think that would be the Ransom Street.
Yeah, that makes
but
sense.
If it's other ways or other projects such as the Douglas Center and everything, and we can start finding out organizations that are looking at maybe honoring them, and we can tag team with them and try to support that too. But
I would, not talking with them, but I'd guess that they take a lot of these in. We'll be taking those in the Ransom Street project.
probably they could. And I know we had talked about attending one of their meetings, and you were going to get us the dates of when their meetings occur. So, you know, we're going to start with one for now.
No, totally.
And branch off.
That's helpful. I guess I still feel very new to Kalamazoo, despite having been here.
I do too.
So I wasn't sure exactly. I wasn't sure if the buildings that you were talking, structures you were just talking about, were within the Ransom Street, the realm of Ransom Street. So thank you.
Here's the thing: they're honoring. I know they're doing a senior center. So while we're supporting for that project, we can also start looking into maybe, you know, putting a plaque there. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. Putting up a plaque, paying for a plaque that can be put up on that street to honor the senior center. So, you know, but we have to get on board with them and meet with them and see how we can assist them. Mm-hmm.
And I guess I've been waiting, I know you've been pretty busy, but waiting to hear from you about contacting. The way I understood our last communication was I was supposed to go through you to contact the Ransom Street project, but did I misdrew that?
I mean, I don't know the new Northside Association director. Jay does. I can't control when Jay reaches out back to us, though, obviously, regarding this stuff. She's spoken to me about it a little bit and said that, you know, it's come up in conversations again, and she would loop you guys back in, time permitting, for that end. Again, I think we really have to understand that our position in this will be dictated by the Northside Association for the Ransom Street one. As it's their project, this is something that they wanted to retain ownership of. So I apologize in the delays and responses, but it's, I can't dictate when she'll respond to you, and I think that she's the one that has laid the most groundwork with the Northside Association.
And I think Jay has been pretty busy too, because I haven't gotten a response back from her several times.
Yep.
Sit there.
So, and I apologize for the delays in that.
No, I understand that, all the things that are happening. So that's basically what we talked about. We wanted to jumpstart this again and getting going, and I could see something tangible from the work plan here that we could talk about producing here for the next meeting. And have something to report on.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys meeting as the subcommittee. That's great, and doing work outside of this. So I really pleased with that. So thank you so much.
What I'd like to hear from people is their thought on what is our purview? What is the purview of telling undertold stories of different communities? That's where I get running and sprinting too fast for our comfort level of all the different other stories we could eventually get to. I see that as a potential. I think starting with the small steps is very, very smart because it will produce something. But is it just buildings? Is it just structures that we work? Because I've heard us talk about trees and the natural environment and preserving places and things like that, that aren't buildings. And I just wondered what other people thought we should look at it, telling undertold stories.
I think I could say, well, to address two of the things you mentioned. One, I'll start with the one you said last. Second thing was, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. No, that's good. So I think my opinion, which maybe isn't that of everybody else, is that preservation is much more inclusive today than it was, many years ago. That we look at the built environment and maybe even the previously built environment, because oftentimes structures related to these undertold stories have been demolished, and so I think that those are still relevant to the work that we do. So I think I would look more comprehensively than not, if you will. And then the other thing you mentioned was there's a lot of excitement, I think, about telling these stories, and that's great. But one thing that we talked about with the development of the work plan is that there are so many other groups doing this work, and we want to be really careful to not kind of come in and take charge and replicate work that's already being done. And so I think one of the reasons that if we think back on the work planning sessions, and I don't have the work plan up in front of me, I just closed it, but we talked about, maybe it's in here. It is in here. Thank you, Luis. Look at that. Thank you. We talked about one of the ways in which we could kind of tap into existing work that's being done with other community groups is under that goal too, kind of attending these meetings held by organizations that are already doing the work. Like we've talked about a few different organizations in the last few years that are already kind of part way down this path, and that we could tap into what they're doing and kind of help support them. I think that there's really tangible work that could be done, that we can be kind of the feet and the hands of some of the work, but maybe not be the ones leading it. Does that make sense? So I think that I love the excitement, and I think there's a lot of work to be done. I think we just need to make sure that we're tapping into the work that's already going on, and not kind of starting off on our own tangents that may or may not get completed. Right? I don't know. Those are just my thoughts.
Oh, okay. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Did Pam want to say something?
Yeah, you've got two reports. Which one would you like to do first? Alphabetical.
Alphabetical. Okay, that would be City Hall. We had our first meeting in early April, and Kyle and Catherine and I and Luis were all there, and we discussed how to take, basically the basics of how to take this project forward, and we looked at what the steps should be and when they should take place, and we decided that we would set an expectation for ourselves that the project would be done before the end of this year. We clearly identified the next steps, and those are presently sitting in Luis's lap, as if he didn't have enough stuff in his lap right now. But he needs to have some conversations with management at the city. And then we created a set of points about a narrative about the potential designation to help take it forward, and produced a timeline to take it to completion. So that's where we are, and I've got some work to do too on that. It's not all Luis's, just so you know. Any questions? Nope? Okay. O'Connor Fund grant making. As I was doing a review of the changes that we were implementing for the online version, I found some, I did this in late March, and I found some that were not made, I'm sure by accident, and some others that were a little bit confusing in the way they were put together on the website. So I sent them to Luis, and did I send them to you, the two of you, Kyle and Catherine also? Yeah. I don't know where those are because Luis and I haven't talked about them, or if they can be implemented yet for this grant period. It sounds to me like maybe some people have been in to the web pages and maybe started applications, so it's possible they cannot be, and we'll have to wait until next year. Just so you know what the upcoming months are going to look like for that. I hope potential applicants received a reminder. I know some had attended a workshop between May 17th and June 7th, excuse me. Applications are due on the 17th of May, is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I have, thank you. And it is Kyle and Luis's job to do a first pass on those applications and then send them on with their comments to the committee. And then on June 21st, the committee will meet to make decisions. That's a public meeting. And a week later, we will notify successful grant seekers of their awards. Any questions on that?
Not a question, Pam, thank you, but just another note that, I hate to say it, but the website still says the application deadline is May 12th, 2023.
Yeah.
So,
That needs to be corrected.
yeah,
Like now.
yeah, so just, it's under the project scoring component, Louise.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wrong in one place, but I think it says it right in another place, correct?
Okay.
At the bottom. I think I saw that before, and I probably just didn't get it over to you.
It does, yeah, underneath underneath it in the submit an application, it does have the correct date, but just, I would assume that somebody would read that and see 2023 and say, nah, but
Yep.
you never know, just FYI. Thanks.
Have you been able to look at any of those yet, Luis, the changes?
Yeah, I have, and I don't think that we should make them this year, I guess.
Okay. All right. I'll put it on the calendar for next year. Thank you.
And what,
Oh, other questions?
well, sorry, now I'm just thinking, Louise, can you speak at all to applications received, communications you've had, anything?
Had communications with folks, but I don't think that I've received any yet. I was just telling Pam that I was getting words of merit nominations coming in.
Yeah.
I think the grant nominations that'd be coming in from a generic email, so I can comb through it
Yeah.
after the meeting.
Okay.
Would you let us know?
Yeah, and
Thank
you can
Be good to have an idea.
bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink as well,
Yeah.
is what I would say too. So people have certainly been in contact with me about projects, and it seems hopeful. I can say from my end of things, I'm certainly a procrastinator. I don't know how often people submit things early as well. So all things to consider, I suppose.
If any of you know of an organization that is contemplating work and may qualify, I would be happy to call them and say, hey, do you know about the program? Let me send you the information, if you'll let me know, okay? Great, thank you.
Thank you, Pam. And apologies for not including those into the packet. I just didn't want to alter it after I'd already published it, so reason for the amendment at the meeting.
All right, brings us to discussion and action items where we will review those just mentioned applications for the awards of merit.
And I hope and suspect that folks have had time to read these prior to the meeting. Some of them are longer than others. It looks like you guys all have computers though, so you can review the materials, or something to view them on, so you can review the materials as well. At this point, we got 5. I was kind of worried this year that we weren't going to get that many, and then they did start to come in, which I was very thankful for. Yes, 5. Need to make sure I counted right. And I'll turn it back over to you all.
Should probably just go one at a time. First being nominated by Pam and Lynn, individual award for Tom Huff of Peregrine Properties. I don't know. Were there any questions or discussion on this application?
I thought it was
Nomination.
Unsurprisingly a great nomination, but I also, it's very thorough, which is great. All the information we need is here. But this is not somebody that I know, but I like the idea of awarding this person because of it's not a traditional preservationist, right? Which I like the idea that it's a real estate developer, which sometimes get a bad rep in the preservation field, but obviously this person has done some really great work in the city of Kalamazoo. And yeah, I mean, in the application even notes, we're not sure Tom would call himself a preservationist. But yeah, I think it's great, and I would be very supportive of the nomination.
Yeah, I think it mentions in here, and I agree that like when you're walking down the mall, the impact is there. Like you see, it creates the space, essentially. A lot of the buildings that he's either bought or done, creates the space.
I remember that then the bank was part of the Hidden Kalamazoo tour before it was developed into, is it a chocolate shop now and livable space? Went down, saw the vault. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's amazing the number of properties that he's touched. Just.
By the way, I brought Louise a picture of him just in case some of you don't know it. The application doesn't ask for photographs for individual nominations, so I didn't, but I have one. That's him.
Do we do a roll call vote? Or just ayes? I mean, it's not money. So.
Yeah, we can just do an ayes for this one. If there's no more discussion regarding the first nomination, yeah, you guys can go for it.
I move to nominate Tom Huff for a Preservation Award of Merit in the individual category.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
He has received one, and I will communicate this with all the folks who have gotten awards, most likely this week, to let them know, hey, you did it. So let them know of the date and everything like that. So
Hopefully coordinate those synopsis videos with Neil again. Cool. Moving on to the second one. Ladies Library Association for some renovation work done recently, as summarized herein. See that interior category.
That was another great nomination. I was excited to see this one. It's not, again, a property that I've ever been in, but really a thorough nomination, and I like that it's, I don't know, that the interior category is interesting, and I think warrants the award.
This is also an organization that was a part of the historic Hidden Kalamazoo tour at one point, and my wife and I got married here, so.
Do they do weddings? At the-
Yeah.
Oh,
The auditorium space upstairs.
Yep.
I know we bought a few chairs from there a couple of years ago, wicker chairs, and they told an interesting story about, so I can remember it, about them cutting the legs lower on the chairs so that people, they were really tall chairs and people's legs would dangle, so the legs of the chairs were cut down somewhat.
This is an organization that's very interested in the preservation of their space, and they've done a very nice job with it.
For sure.
I guess I can approve of the nomination or move to approve the nomination from the Ladies Library Association for the Historic Preservation Award for their interior work.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed. Oh, sorry, I gotta get back to the next one. Next nomination is by Mr. Drew Duncan for 405 Stewart Avenue in the residential owner-occupied category.
Wait, did I skip one?
This is 405.
Probably not.
You might have thought you did because there are no photos.
There are no photos, yes.
I'm missing something here.
Luis, do you have any insight on this specific property?
Yeah, this is if you guys saw the house, I'm sure you would know the property. I don't alter the applications as they come in, so I didn't add any photographs. Out of, the feedback is really getting to me today, but out of a place of,
Impartiality?
exactly. So this house is on the corner of Stewart and Kalamazoo. It is on the northwest corner of that, the northwest corner of that area. As you guys read through here, it's mostly just about the preservation and stewardship of this property, which is still in great shape. I think also there is reference to the gas lanterns that were installed recently in the front yard of the property as well. Which, if someone was to look it up on Google Earth and look at the property, I'm not sure that the gas lanterns would be pictured in the image there, but you would still be able to see the property and take it all in, I guess. So
This was the first Stewart Avenue Inn bed and breakfast. Dana and Chris is down the street one block. That's the current Stewart Avenue Inn, but I believe that was the first Stewart Avenue Inn, wasn't it? In the 70s, 60s.
I guess, are we voting on the property period or improvements? What are we voting on?
I believe that Mr. Duncan checked the stewardship box, not a rehabilitation box. So
Okay.
the ongoing preservation of the structure with necessary and appropriate maintenance to preserve the character and integrity of the resource, I think is what it says here.
So it would be honoring the commitment of the upkeep.
Have we done that recently?
I seem to remember last year we did not. We turned one down just from the idea that somebody was living there was not, and maintaining it was not enough to merit the award. I seem to remember that from last year.
Well, I think I still stand with that, but more importantly, there's no pictures. What has been preserved? We're going off of say-so. So, we required every other candidate to upload pictures of what they're trying to
And I
get
just want to
nominated.
make sure, I never mean to parse words, but I'm a semantic guy. The reason for having the two different categories, we cannot expect people in the stewardship category to live up to things that are done in the rehabilitation category, in my opinion. Looking at stewardship, which is literally written on the application, the things that we were looking for is the ongoing preservation of historic resources with the necessary appropriate maintenance to preserve the character and integrity of the historic resource. I'm not sure which category, and the application that's being referenced by Patrick is 530 West South Street, which is being applied for again, so I don't think that we need to color our interpretation of this year's application with what we remember about last year's application. I don't remember what category it was nominated under, but the commission voted. Their decision is final, and they did not feel that the application last year lived up to the intent of the category applied under. The next thing is, and I do think this is important for multiple reasons. Some people are tech savvy, some people are not. It is not necessary to upload 5 to 10 photographs. We are asking. Just for an example, like at the city, I cannot require that people submit only electronic submissions because it bars the segment of the population that is not able to access the internet. We could have a conversation back and forth about, well, they could bring them in. I could then say that that bars the segment of people that are not able to leave their homes to come to the office, and then we could talk about writing letters. And I think it just becomes a moot point. Was there photographs added to this one? No, there weren't. People can look it up, and it is a stewardship thing. I just don't want us to, you guys are the ones that make the decision about them at the end of the day. And I think that the stewardship one was probably added at some point by Sharon for a reason, to say, hey, we also have an individual category, and full disclosure, this application was submitted the first time underneath the individual category, and I said, I think you should revise the application, because I don't think that reflects well on the what you're trying to say here with the application. So I just wanted to provide that. I know that that's in the weeds and splitting hairs, but I just wanted everyone. Those are my thoughts about it when I look at these.
Well, that's helpful, and I think I'm finding myself going back to the purpose of the award program and the awards themselves. And initially, I'm thinking of, like, I have my O'Connor Fund grant-making hat on, and I'm thinking, this is not a complete there's not enough information here. But when we're giving people money, we hold them to a different standard, perhaps, because that's that purpose. But this purpose is to celebrate preservation in Kalamazoo and recognize people and properties for that. So just wanted to throw that out there. I think maybe that's an important thing to note with this application, or nomination rather, sorry.
I think that required is a word that when I look at it means that you would not be able to progress through the application process without submitting a photograph. The verbiage in this one says, please, so doubt that they were required. Some of these things I also find just to be things that can be cleaned up later. I guess I don't see the relevance of looking at things like, did we get photographs or not, when the address is on full display. We all live in the city of Kalamazoo, and we could all drive by the property. If we're looking at before and afters, I think that it would certainly strengthen one. Under stewardship, I guess, I don't necessarily see the relevance. And it's just me looking at it from a practical viewpoint. I don't think that they're required on the web form. And I guess to me, I would lean back into what Catherine just said. This, to me, being the preservation coordinator, is really a chance for me to uplift the folks. And certainly it's an honor, but, you know, I think that a lot of people probably in historic districts live in the reality of these are things that I have to do, and this is the one chance that I really look forward to uplift the folks that are doing the work and recognize that the preservation is about the buildings, sure, as they are a tangible part of our history, and they are the things that we are charged with preserving per ordinance and state law. What we really are celebrating, though, I think, are the people, as these are remnants of the people's stories in the city of Kalamazoo, and we need to recognize that these are the folks that are doing the work. I know that we have a people category, and it might seem counterintuitive in that way. Last year, to me, though, when I was at the ceremony, it did mean a lot to see the folks be able to come up, talk about their projects, how enthused they were about their projects. And I think it speaks volumes that they get the pat on the back, they get the award, they get the recognition publicly at that moment, too, to say, hey, you did do this, you went above and beyond with the project. I know that that's tangential to what you were asking me regarding the photographs as well. And that's just my perspective in the role that I have with the city.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, you know, the purpose of this, I get the individual because they don't have anything to show. We're giving the first gentleman the award because he's shown that he has purchased this property, that property, revived it, created a revived neighborhood. Got it. He's got nothing really to take pictures of. He did indicate in there, or Pam or whoever wrote it, they indicated what the buildings were. So that's a picture, and to let us know, you know, where, you know, what his accomplishments have been. You have the category of those who are doing a rehab or a restoration, a restoration. And so, yes, we're looking for before and after. We want to know what did you restore and everything else. But now when we're talking about stewardship, that they've kept the property intact, what I believe is what you're saying, I get that. But unless we have a picture to see, you know, because if that's the case, anybody could write it. You know, anybody could, you know, write, well, you know, I keep my property together and I've done this, that, and this. I need to be able to see it. And if you're asking me, you know, oh, well, you can go to to his house, you know, to the address and look at it yourself. Okay, I can do that. But then I'm going to have to vote another day because you didn't give me that time for me to do a drive-by. I can't make a decision right now because I don't know what it looks like. Because then you're asking me to vote on something that's blind, which is why we asked for the picture. It doesn't have to be totally, you know, it doesn't have to be a drop-down, you know, professionally done. It's just a picture so I can see what am I voting on. I don't know if that is, I don't want to say ethical, but I mean, you're voting on something you don't even know what you're voting on. But I mean, I get that. Yeah, I could look it up on the computer, but that's the purpose. And maybe we need to be clear in the application next year. If you're voting for stewardship or what have you, at least give us one picture. And then my thought process is, oh, okay, so they're not computer savvy, but they were computer savvy enough to fill out this form and submit it, so, I mean, when do we draw the line? I mean, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm with the government, so I'm black and white here, but in any case, I don't have anything to vote on. Okay, I guess it looks nice. Is that for me being a good steward? Am I looking at this like, oh, okay? I don't know. That's just my thought. I want to be able to see what I'm voting on. With the pictures of the bookshelves, they look nice. They look nice and natural, and I don't know. But whatever, we can take it to vote, I guess.
Well, I think we definitely need more information on the narrative.
Any other thoughts or comments on this nomination?
Okay, I just have one. So I think that in an ideal world, we'd have more information, right? I think that ideally we'd have more here, but I don't, I'm going back to my tab here. I don't think, we don't say that the photos are required. We don't have a word limit on the narrative form. We don't require those things. So while it's nice, somebody like this applicant, this nominator, they don't have the ability to compare nominations like we do. So while we've had, 1,000+ words for other nominations, and so we see that as the norm, I don't know that somebody else would think that's the norm, and they might think that this is sufficient. So I think that if that's something that we want, if we think eligibility that needs to be dictated, by word counts and photographs, then we need to write that into the nomination form. And if we don't do that, then I don't know that we can require it. Does that make sense? I think we just need to be more clear. If that's something that we feel should be required, then we should write that it should be required. But because we haven't, I don't feel comfortable excluding nominations without them. Does that make sense? I don't know. Just my thought.
Just want to make a couple more interjections. I do send these out to you guys the week before the applications are made, or this is due, so there is ample time to review the packets, is the first point that I would make. These are public documents, so anyone can read these, so applicants could look at them. Also, as a governmental employee, we need to be considerate of the entire populace of the city. To me, having a word limit presents itself as a barrier to me. Personally, people might disagree with me on that, but it does to me a little bit.
Something you highly emphasize, though, with the grants.
I think that they're apples and oranges to me completely. I don't know. I don't think it's fair to compare the two at all, where in one case we are giving away money, and in the other case we're looking to just uplift folks with an award that we're giving out through recognition. You get out of it what you put into it truly in any of these things where you're submitting something to be reviewed by a panel of folks. For the Historic Preservation Awards of Merit, people certainly have the benefit of being able to go and look at past awards. When we consider the grant awards, we probably are not going to make those public for folks to look at. That probably makes the applications something that is helpful. the last comparison that I'll make is that those things are completely geared towards nonprofit institutions, where I think that we're probably assuming that folks are working in some sort of professional setting, and they might have a dedicated grant writer who is going to be reviewing them. And I think that then looking at a word limit or readability level, while it still might be an impact, folks could always reach out to me, and I'm not saying that that's not the case, but we could be dealing with homeowners here where readability could be a barrier, and that's something that I don't want to go up against. While I realize that we don't have pictures for this one, and I totally get that, and I'm not stating in defense or opposition of any of the applications, I just think, at the end of the day, it's your guys' prerogative how you vote on these things. If we have problems with the application, then I think we should address those and separate ourselves when looking at those issues from the application at hand. If there are substantive issues with the application, that's what I would be looking at.
And that subcommittee is myself and Catherine if we want to revise for next year. Okay. A little contentious here. I haven't said much personally. I can see both sides. And I don't know what I'm going to do.
Can I ask, since I'm still kind of new, so for these, I mean, it's not like we all have to vote for it, right? Like some folks might not vote for one nomination, right? Okay.
You just have to have a majority or what?
So to clarify, you have to vote unless you have a vested interest in the property that presents you with a conflict of interest. You're not allowed to abstain from a vote unless that is the case. It comes up a lot more with the HDC than it does with this commission. I can peek at the bylaws real quick because right now we are, 1, 2, 3, oh no, we just need a majority vote on them. Quorum would be 5, so we need a majority. Should be. We have 6 people right now, which would make it very tricky if we had a split decision, but yes.
One want to nominate, or what are we saying?
Yeah, I'll move that we nominate 405 Stewart for the Preservation Award.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And opposed?
Nay.
I'm also going to say nay. But the ayes have it. On to the next one.
And I do appreciate you guys exercising the deliberation process on that one and asking questions, and navigating the Roberts rules for that. So, thank you.
Fourth nomination here is from Mr. Richard Stewart for the Henderson Castle Foundation, address of 530 West South Street. I guess this is the property, not the foundation address. Excuse me. In the interior category. So this owner must provide accesses for the making of the video should things proceed, or is that just to get photos in general since it is interior and not publicly accessible?
You guys ask such good questions. And I really do think of them come down, some of them, to semantics, so there was not foresight made when some of the rules were created.
I couldn't have my phone.
Obviously, I don't know if the online form was created when the first application was created, requesting that interior photos be provided for a nomination to make it eligible.
I think there's
They
pictures
did provide them. I would never say you must let me into your property to make this video, though. So is how I would answer in a very non-committal way.
Is-
So this was the one that they had just bought it last year and had not done anything yet, correct?
I won't necessarily speak to the amount of work done, but this is the one last year that they had just purchased when the nomination was submitted. Correct.
Okay, and the photos reflected a non-restored interior. I seem to remember like it
I'm
was-
also not going to comment on that.
Okay.
You can look back on them if you would like to, but I'm not going to speak
Okay.
to those things.
Is this for stewardship also?
Yeah, this is for stewardship. Hello? Does it hear me? This is what I'm talking about. Now, I can look at this and say, oh, yeah, it looks nice. He just wants stewardship. It's not that he did it before and after. He did any rehab. He's just doing a good job to keep it historic and the good integrity. This I can vote for. And it looks nice. Although, we don't know if it's been photoshopped and all that. But we're not going there. We're not going there. We're not going there. We just it looks nice, so. And is anyone buying this? Because isn't it on the chopping block now?
Well, that gets to my question, is exactly that, is that if it's being, well, a couple of things. One, it's being nominated as stewardship, but either A, it was just purchased or is currently for sale. So stewardship, but then the narrative talks about being brought back to its historic features. So I guess I'm just confused about, and my understanding, as I think Patrick just pointed out, those are the listing photos.
Yeah, it's for sale right now.
So how, I just wonder how that complicates things.
Well, I don't know why would that be a factor? I mean,
Want us to be respectful of each application as we're going through them completely. Again, we are going to start looking at things that get down to semantics a lot. If we do not have an age defined on the website for what constitutes stewardship, then we have to ask ourselves, like, could someone have misinterpreted the word? It is your guys' prerogative on what you do and don't vote for. I love the deliberation that you all have for these, truly do. A, the property was purchased, I want to say, last year, so that's the first thing that we'll look at. B, I don't know necessarily if it being on the market would play, I don't know how to word this. I don't know how that impacts anything to do with stewardship. They are the listing photographs that are used. And if there's other questions, I'm here to answer.
Yes, it was purchased on November 18th of 2022. So the current owner has owned it for a year and a half.
are they selling it already?
See, this is one where I feel like I would like more information.
But
Yeah.
I guess in my mind, we are voting on the property. We're not voting for the owner. I mean, it could be owned by one person today and owned by the next person tomorrow. We're voting that the property is still in good shape for integrity. And Luis is right, it's a subjective word, stewardship. We didn't define it in the application. So, what looks good to you, may not be what the intent or the property was to look like during that time period. So, you know, they could have made it up and it's all false, but it looks good, but it's all false. So are we defining that is correct for its error time period? Are we defining stewardship that it's clean and it's, you know, what, we didn't define what stewardship is. So, but since we don't have a definition, this property, even though it's off of the MLS, we can see that, yeah, I mean, the details of the rooms look intact from the 1800 time period. It's got the tray ceilings, it's got the, you know, so we can go down the gamut and judge, yeah, it looks good, it's intact, you know. Next year, I do agree, we need to define what does that mean. But, I mean, and I'm not trying to take it away from whoever, but again, we're not voting for the owner, we're voting for the property. That's just my thought.
Well, the owner is responsible for the stewardship. I don't think you can separate the two.
But even if there's 10 owners, an owner a year, the property itself is still in good
I
shape.
guess if all 10
Yeah,
maintained it.
they maintained it. They kept it up.
I guess I'm still a little confused on how we're, I guess, making these decisions then. Just, I mean, this is from what is the text and the pictures, if attached. How are we, you know, supporting a nomination or not? Like, if we're talking about requirements, do then we need a rubric for evaluating those? Because whether or not, you know, it's, I mean, I don't think whether it's to a certain time period is relevant, right? Like that's not what this is necessarily based off of. So I guess for me, and you know, without the extra kind of like, it was sold recently, it's back on the market. I mean, if we're just looking at the text and the information provided, I don't see how that can impact whether we support it or not, so.
Under our current state of how we presented the application, I agree. We just have to go on, does it look good? But I agree, we need a rubric or something, because we need to be able to objectively rate the properties or even the applications. Even if it's individual stewardship or restoration. But I agree, we don't, right now, we just have to look at it and say it looks good.
Further thoughts or comments? Does anyone want to proceed?
Yeah, you could word it like that. Yep.
Okay, I would move to support the nomination.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? What was that?
Nay.
Nay as well. The ayes have it. Moving on. This is our last one, right? Fifth? Yes. All right.
What is this one?
Nomination is from a Progress V LLC for the address of 712 South Burdick in the category of residential rental property for rehabilitation.
I thought this was a nice nomination. They did some good work here from what the narrative states and then the photos as well. Yeah, I think I thought it was a nice midway point where we're getting nominations from people out in the community. And it seems like a solid project. I wasn't sure, I did have a question about, was this one that came to the HDC? No, because I couldn't, it doesn't say if it's in a district or not, or it's nominated, so I didn't look that up. Okay.
It's in a district. Maybe it did come to the HDC, I don't know. But all the work got approved. This is in a district.
It is in a district. All right, great. Thank you.
It either got reviewed administratively or I want to say that I just reviewed it administratively.
Okay. Great.
I nominate to approve this one to get an award. I'm not happy about the color. I wouldn't have gone with that color. But that's a personal preference. But I nominate to award.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Just quickly about this one, the reason that I can't remember if it came to the commission or not is that when they uncovered that second story porch, the entire that used to be like a sleeping porch. So when they tore down the wall, they found the porch up there. They found all that, all the trim work, and the railing was still intact, the original railing, and then they recreated it. Generally, when that level of thing happens, where there's recreation work and you have physical or pictorial evidence, then I don't need to take it to the commission because you're recreating something that was already there, and it wasn't conjectural. It was approval that was issued maybe around the pandemic or before, and then it came back, so I did re-review it, but it is in the South Vine Historic District, or South Street Vine Area Historic District. I think that this one is neat to see in person, especially if you remember what it looked like before. This one is almost directly across the street from Bronson Hospital on Burdick. So.
Oh, I knew I recognized that building. It is right across the street from that.
All right. On to the next order of business. Item 2, payment to KNAC for hosting our upcoming awards. Yet again, I guess I should say.
I move to approve the $225 for the space
I'll
for the
second.
award ceremony.
And then this is a money matter, so we have to do a roll call vote. We'll go down the list as printed. Kayla?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Lene?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Get this one. Thank you guys for voting on that. I always feel kind of guilty because I always had to make KNAC wait to give them the money because I need to bring it to you guys first. That's not a poor reflection on you in any way, but I just know that they might ask other folks like, hey, we'd like to get the money faster, and they've always been very gracious with us to give us the time needed to make sure that it comes before the commission first. So I do
Wait,
get you guys looking at this matter.
we in the crawl space, is that?
No, that's just the name of the crawl space theaters in the same space that we've been each year.
Okay.
We are not in the crawl space
Okay,
now.
well, I was just trying to make sure.
I would
'Cause I
not
don't do the crawl space. I
No.
won't be able to make it.
I wouldn't subject you guys to being in a crawl
I'm just
space.
saying.
225 gets us.
Okay.
I just make the HDC do that, not the.
Oh.
Kidding. Joke, if any
Thank you.
HDC members are watching.
All right, then that brings us to selecting the vice chair position since Brian has left the commission. How do we do that?
So I know that we moved, I don't know what the language was. I guess I would also suggest that we might as well just do both elections right now. It's April, so we could just look at the chair and the vice chair because it's an annual renewal. I don't know how the motion was made at the beginning to amend the report, but I think that it was not stated just vice chair. I think that it was probably nominations. You guys can disagree with me. We can move it to later if you would like. The way that this is done, and I don't remember if you guys remember from last year, is that first a nomination needs to be made. Last year, it was very clear that single nominations were being made, so it kind of seems silly, but that's the true Robert's Rules way. A nomination is made for someone to be appointed to the position. After the nomination is made, this would be like, oh, there's 4 people that got nominated. Then there would be votes on those who were nominated for the appointment. Is that clear?
But, okay, go ahead. Mhm.
So, for instance, let's say that we had three people, right? Jim, Tom, and Eric that were looking to be appointed, just for the sake of it, please. So they all got nominated. Then there would have to be a vote amongst them. So they all got nominated first, and that moves them on to the next round. And then another vote is had amongst the nominees to see who is actually going to get appointed to the position. So first we'll have a round where someone is going to nominate out of the group. So, for example, if I were a member, I'm not going to say anyone's names, but I could say then, hey, fictional Eric, I nominate you to be the chair of this commission. And then someone could second it, and then he would be nominated. And then if there was 2 other nominations, then we'd have to pick amongst those 3 folks to see who would actually get the appointment. As I said a second ago, last year we only had 1 nomination for each, so then we went through the motions for both. You could probably make it so if there's only 1 nomination, you could make it a combined vote to say, okay, since there are no others, can we also vote on the appointment of this individual at the same time? Does that make more sense to folks?
Can fictional Eric turn it down?
I think that it is an individual, yes, they
I
could,
think you could.
they are more than welcome to turn down a nomination. I don't know if that's all the way allowed, but I guess I always want people to be comfortable in this setting. I know that this is a volunteer setting, and I just would not want people to, my personal sense of fairness for it, so.
I nominate Kyle to continue to be chair.
Second.
Wait, isn't Kyle chair?
To continue for another year.
Oh,
Oh, your year is up?
We said we might as well do both selections now because it is a yearly position.
Well, can we nominate and vote? Because is anybody running against him? All right, let's move on.
Robert's Rules.
So a nomination, a second is not a vote.
I think that the person that made the vote could then go back and amend the vote if they so wish to say. I think that we can also make this into the appointment.
I move to amend my earlier motion to vote to appoint Kyle as the chair for another year if he accepts.
I accept.
Oh, go ahead.
Oops, sorry.
And then roll call? Or just
I
ayes?
think you could just do ayes for this one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Very appropriate.
All right, the nominations are open for vice chair.
I nominate Patrick.
I second.
Do you accept?
Give a speech.
I'm so honored. Sure, I'll accept it.
Any other oh, I'm running this meeting. No, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Lene rules. So is that a motion?
It was not revised, no.
It's not, are there any other nominations? We don't know.
Floor is open, but I'm hearing none.
I move to amend my nomination to nominate and approve the placement of Patrick in the vice president or vice chair position.
I'll second. Again.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So concludes voting. The incumbent chair has extended his, I don't want to say reign necessarily, but he has another term as chair, running unopposed. Kyle Hibbard. Thank you, Kyle, for doing this for us again. And after a vacancy showed up, Kyle, you have been appointed to the position of vice chair, which I do want to remind you means that in the absence of Kyle, you will be the one that leads the meetings. We do not have a succession plan sketched out at this point, so I don't know what happens if both of you guys are absent. Probably don't have a meeting. So, all right.
We probably wouldn't have quorum, yeah. Till we find that other member.
That's the question.
What?
Who gavels are out then?
Good questions.
Permanent session.
All right. Was there a coordinator's report besides
I
section
wrote
106?
one, but it looks like I didn't include it somehow, so I apologize for that.
Please tell us about it.
Probably was going to say the same things about that I've been saying for the past months about MHPN. Pam kindly reminded me today that I need to give you all invitations to the opening VIP reception for the MHPN conference, which will be held on May 8th at the Ladies Library. So folks who have not been in the Ladies Library will be able to attend. I will get those out to you guys tomorrow.
I received mine, yeah.
Oh, they already did go out. This is what I'm talking about. It's very confusing.
They mailed
It came in the mail.
Okay, so never mind. I don't need to give them to you guys. So I hope to see you all there at the opening reception.
No meeting here. That's the same night, I think, Wednesday.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't think we can do the two places at once thing. I did think about it, but I don't think that we're going to be able to. So we're going to need to figure out what we want to do for May as well.
Boy, May.
Mm-hmm.
May, not, I have taken 2 days off to attend the conference, okay? Yeah.
That excites me very much. I'm very happy.
Just like, well, I felt like you paid for it. I don't want to waste your money.
I didn't necessarily, but I do appreciate the thought of it, and
All right.
I don't mean that facetiously. I'm very glad that you are taking the time. I think you'll enjoy it.
So the 8th is the reception.
Yep.
The 9th and the 10th is the conference.
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure, I'm free every other Wednesday. I'm for now.
Yep. May is a busy month. If we think that we need to have a meeting,
I know this is bad form as the new vice chair, but I will be gone the 15th and 22nd.
And I'll be gone the 29th. So.
Oh. What about the 1st? That's next week.
It's next week.
Yeah, that's next week already.
I'm also gone the 1st. So sorry.
Well, that's that. So, I don't know.
so perhaps at this point we don't have a meeting in May.
We encourage the subcommittees to still proceed.
Now you're getting it. Oh, yeah, I already picked out the date. Sorry, guys. I had to. This is all coming at me so quick. And it's on the 29th. It's the last Wednesday in the month.
Oh, well, there goes our last opportunity to reschedule, so.
So blame it on Luis.
Sometimes I think that you guys are just there with me when I'm doing this. Neil put out a press release, I think, for the award ceremony too already.
And that's at 6 p.m.?
Mm-hmm. No, I think that it's,
That's just when we know the space is available.
no. I generally try to schedule them on Wednesdays for you guys because they're always on Wednesdays. I don't know what your guys' lives are like outside of this, so I just try to keep that regularity for it. You're right, it could be scheduled for another time, certainly. I know that we cannot anticipate what business is coming up either, but I'm a firm believer if there is no business, then we do not need to meet. So I know that that's not I'm not clairvoyant, so I cannot tell what's going to happen in the future either. So my 2 cents, but you guys are all the commission. But we know right now that our first day is certainly a no-go.
Meaning next week? Is that what you're referring to?
We cannot meet in May because that is the night of the opening reception. It's,
On the 8th.
Right, our regularly scheduled meeting.
yep.
Are we going to try to reschedule to a different day or time? And are we able to do that not knowing what's available in this room? Since we apparently have to meet in this room.
Not on a Monday, not on a Friday, for me.
I mean, the second week of May is kind of out, right, because of MHPN?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of volunteering.
Yeah. My availability in May is quite limited. Traveling a lot.
So I, for one, will just say that I think it would be easier to do this when I can have it in writing in front of me as opposed to doing it right now. I'm not writing any of this down right now, just so you guys know, mostly because I don't have a pen and my computer's about to die. I can pull up the computer calendar right now for this room to look. I try not to be an absolutist, but we are rather locked into this room because we've been having the meetings in this room. It's the most fair to be in this room. Right now, the entire week of the 20th in May is completely open in the evenings. I'll send an email out to you all that outlines this availability as well. The entire week of the 27th is also free. The Monday is not open, sorry, for the 20th, because that's City Commission.
It's Memorial Day, so City Hall won't be open, will they?
Probably not.
I don't think we can, because we won't be.
Well, I'm just, yeah. All right, so are we just going to look for an email for possible dates and then we'll decide from there? Or do we have to announce it right now?
If you guys want to announce it right now, I just don't know how productive of an exercise it is at this moment.
How much notice is required?
18 hours technically to have a special meeting. It's not very fair to you guys, and it would not be fair to me because I'm not going to make the packet 18 hours before the meeting. So we'll probably try to make sure that we can get it scheduled more than 18 hours prior to the meeting.
So we'll leave it at look for an email to be determined.
We certainly know the 8th is canceled.
Yes. Our regularly scheduled meeting will not be happening due to our award ceremony.
Due to the opening reception of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network.
That's what I meant.
Sorry. I wasn't trying to be mean. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Oh boy, are we done yet?
No.
That concludes my report.
Okay, are there any commissioner comments?
We do.
Yeah,
So-
just one.
Yeah, so Patrick and I had our inaugural meeting of our finance subcommittee just today, which is why we did not submit a report, because it was at 10 a.m. this morning.
Correct.
Yep.
We're coming up with some criteria for our gifts that are outside of the grant-making process. And we need to gather a little bit more information before we submit a full report here. There are a couple questions that we'd like the full commission to discuss and at a future meeting, not at this one, but we can kind of ask them so you think about them a little bit. One part of this is how much funds do we want to allocate to this on a yearly basis? And is it some percentage of some budget, or kind of tossing around a couple different options here? But this is one thing that we need to get a little bit more information on. Do we want the same organization to receive gifts in subsequent years? Is there, or maybe 2 years on, 2 years off, or there's some options to do that? Is this only a case in which there is more requests than we have funds available? So these are some of the things that we want to have the full commission discuss, but we'll have some more to come on that. And then in what form do we want people to submit requests for support? Should they come to a meeting? Do we want a letter? Do we want, that, but that's something that we'd like the full commission to discuss as well.
And one thing that we talked a lot about this morning was, so as a kind of a first step, we're going to be doing just kind of like a one pager of our financial state, not necessarily like the nitty gritty. We've learned a lot in the last few months, the last year, about how the O'Connor Fund works. We had that great presentation in the winter. And so just to kind of summarize into a one-page document that can hopefully live on and inform future commission members. But for the spending, we talked about, there's obviously different types of spending. We've got grant spending, operational spending, special projects, and gifts. And so we talked about kind of defining each of those, but we really focused on the gift or the gift criteria because, of course, last year we had a couple of requests for gifts, and I think we're unsure about how to handle those. And so one thing to note is that we talked a lot about how we don't want to overburden that process. We have the grant making, the O'Connor Grant Program, which is really has a lot of criteria, and it's a lot of eligibility requirements, which is great for that program. But we would like the gift program to be a little more agile and free-form. But within that, we're still trying to consider eligibility and fund availability and process to some capacity, but also not trying to create a really strict framework or rubric, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not some parallel grant process, but just a set of guidelines for us as we're making decisions on how to allocate this money.
So, more to come.
Thank you, guys.
We will look forward to furthering that discussion. Any other comments from the commission at this time?
Just how great is it that so many subcommittees met, right? It's great.
What progress.
It is wonderful. And thank you guys for doing that. I feel like that's how business will be pushed forward. Sorry for the omissions on this packet. Moving into May is busy, doubly so because of the MHPN conference this month, or next month, coming up 2 weeks or whatever. So thank you all for your patience with me as always, and thank you truly for meeting in the subcommittees and the work that you do in the not subcommittee. So thank you.
See you at the conference, hopefully. All right, thank you all. Have a great night. Adjourned.